All right. Welcome to Data Platform Geeks webinar series, one webinar a day series, which we are running all throughout this month. So this is a Data Platform Geeks initiative where we are running webinars for the whole month of March. And this is the 11th webinar in the series. We have 20 webinars scheduled this month. We have successfully run 10 of them. And thanks to the community to support us, and also thanks to our speakers for being such a great sport and delivering webinars for Data Platform Geeks. A quick intro before we jump into the webinar today. eDomino Systems is the company which runs the Data Platform Geeks as a community initiative. They also have different companies. SQLMaestros is one of their companies which delivers regular trainings and masterclasses uh, online and also in person. Please do go to the site and explore different options available from our sponsors. And as you would already know, most of you have been part of Data Platform Geeks community. If you are joined newly, uh, I would like to introduce you to the Data Platform Summit. This happens every August in Bangalore in India. So this is the 4th year running into the conference, and this is happening from 9th to 11th of August. And we also have 2 full day training sessions on 7th and 8th before the conference. This is happening in Hotel Park Plaza in Bangalore. This is a must attend if you are serious about data platform and open source. Anything related to data that will be covered in this conference by different speakers from across the world. So there'll be more than 1,000 attendees, so you get a very good chance to speak to your colleagues and everyone from different backgrounds and different experiences working on different projects. And also you'll be able to talk to the experts like MCMs and MVPs and worldwide experts who will be speaking at this conference. We also have a very special participation from the data group in Microsoft. So few of the data platform product team members will be flying down from Redmond and various parts of the world, and they will be speakers at this conference. So this is a wonderful experience and 100% learning event, and there's no marketing uh, at this conference. I would like to introduce you to the core team behind this conference and also the Data Platform Geeks community. Amit Bansal is the founder and president. Myself, I'm Manohar Punna. I'm the vice president currently heading the group. And also we have Avanish Panchal, Prince Rastogi, Sandeep Pani, Yogesh Varpul, and Surbhi Agarwal, who are the core pillars of this team, who help us and build this community and take these events that are initiated by Data Platform Geeks. We also have a wonderful team, the backbone behind this community, which helps us in running these events, without whom these events would not be possible. So they are the eDomino team and the Peopleware India team that help us run these events. And a special thanks, a shout out to Microsoft, who has been a great support for Data Platform Geeks and a great support to the community, and they help us in running these events. So a big thanks to Microsoft. If you are attending this webinar, you would have already been part of this community. You would have registered on dataplatformgeeks.com. If you haven't had a look at the Data Platform Geek site, there's a lot of resources that are available for free. All the webinars are recorded, so they will be hosted on dataplatformgeeks.com. You just need to register and you get access to all these resources. And and we also run the Asia's largest conference, as I've told before. So you get an option to see what's happening at this conference. So please go ahead and explore the site where you will have access to all these materials. And I think most of you are already part of these groups. So if you are not, please go ahead and join the Facebook and LinkedIn group. If you have any questions, please post it here, and expert on this group will be able to answer your questions. So this is a great help, and we have seen many members benefit from these groups. So please do register, and you also get to answer any questions and anything that you have seen before and someone is having problems, they can ask their questions and you will get answers very quickly on this and expert answers on these groups. And I'll quickly hand over to the speaker for today. So the session for today is on the SQL Server 2017 community-driven enhancements. So Javier Villegas is going to speak about SQL Server 2017 community-driven enhancements. He's a MVP and he's a DBA manager. And I'll hand over to Javier now.
Hi, Manu. Thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Okay, hope everybody can see it. As Manu said, my name is Javier Villegas. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I work as a DBA manager at Mediterranean Shipping Company, involved with the SQL Server and data platform since early versions. My specialization is SQL Server administration, performance tuning, and high availability. I am data platform MVP. I have a technical blog, and I am contributor for the MSDN forums. And I am a frequent speaker as different PAS events, group buy events. I am member of the SQL Argentina PAS group. This is the agenda of the topics that we will try to cover today. These are all new features in SQL Server 2017, right? And as the title said, these are community-driven enhancements. What does it mean? Basically, we all know that Microsoft is a very different company right now, right? They listen to the community, they listen to the vendor, they listen to the customers, and they get our feedback, right? So through the Microsoft Connect side, they were collecting feedback from all of us saying which features we would like to have in the next major version of SQL Server, right? And these are some of the features that were voted and the one that we do see at the product today, right? A smart differential backup, smart transaction log backup, select into on Filegroup, several improvements in setup and monitoring and planning for the Tempdb, improvements at the transaction log monitoring and diagnostics, also enhancement in terms of backups, and processor information, and two important and really great features called Resumable Online index reveal and automatic plan correction. We will try to cover all these points during the presentation. Well, one of the major points of SQL Server 2017 is that now runs in multiple platforms, right? Windows, as always, Linux, and Dockers that give us a lot of possibilities and flavors in where we can run our data platform infrastructure. So this is something new and really important for the community, because we are not tied to the Windows platform. We can go to almost any platform, right? With the introduction of graph processing and complex BI, right? We have possibilities of running our analytics within the database engine without moving our workload out of the data platform, right? Also, with the introduction of machine learning, initially in SQL Server 2016, with the introduction of R, and now with Python, also great improvement. And with a data deep query processing, right? What Microsoft is trying to do is put a lot of intelligence in the query processing so we can get better, more predictable, and more stable execution plans. SQL Server 2017 is great just out of the box, right? And give us a lot of benefits than previous versions of SQL servers didn't have, right? Now, as I said before, we can run it at any platform and we have a choice of operating system, right? We can work with any type of data, structured data, as it's always been, and now also unstructured data. Machine learning, right, with R and Python. And we can also deploy it anywhere. We can deploy it in our data centers, as always, in the cloud, right, and on a hybrid environment. So basically, we can deploy our platform anywhere we want. In terms of platform, right, as I said, Windows servers and Windows 10, as usual and as always. Major distributions of Linux, like Red Hat, SUSE, and Ubuntu, but also other distributions as well, like CentOS, Fedora, etc. And Windows and Linux containers. Also, in terms of containers, when we talk about Docker, we also have the possibility of deploying a SQL Server on a Mac OS machine, right? Running on a container. So this is also something great. I remember not so long ago when I heard that Microsoft was about to release or give us the possibility of running SQL Server on Linux and Mac OS. I thought it was a shock, but in fact it is not, right? And the trending of the adoption are really impressive. In terms of the platform itself, Gartner has recognized Microsoft and SQL Server as the best data platform or transactional system over the last 3 years. So Microsoft and SQL Server is the leader for the last 3 years, right? So it's really, really serious because now there is this recognition that we have in the data platform that we all use and love. All right. What Microsoft said initially was that SQL Server 2016 was much faster than any other version, just out of the box, right? We got it, we installed it, and since then, we can see the benefits right away. With SQL Server 2017, the promise is that it's even faster, right? As I mentioned briefly, with R and Python, with query processing, with adaptive query processing, Resumable Online, index reveal, multi-platform, we have choices and we have performance, right? And keep in mind what I said at the beginning. All this, or most of these features that we're going to cover today are voted by us, by the community, by the vendors, and by the customer, right? Something that we never saw before. Okay, let's start with the first enhancement, the first feature. And this feature and the following one are targeted to backups, right? This one is a smart differential backup. Okay, now we have on a dynamic management view called DMDB file space usage, a new column, right? Which is modify extend page count. What does it mean? Let's say that we have a maintenance strategy, right? Which is, a full backup over the weekend, let's say on Sundays, and then differentials backup over the week, every day, right? So, and then the following Sunday, we do another full backup. What we do have in this column, right, is the modify exchange page count. We have the amount of pages that were changed since the last full backup, right? So comparing the amount of pages that were changed versus the total number of pages, right? We can check the percentage of this modification. And let's say we can decide ourselves if it is good to keep doing differential backup or if it is better to do a full backup instead, right? So let's say that by Wednesday, this percentage of change is over certain value that we consider that is a threshold, right? Instead of doing another differential backup, we can switch and do full backups, right? This is basically an option that we have, right? So this is not just to go there and just use it, right? But now we have an option. We're gonna see a code later, right? That, you know, instead of doing backups, full backups and differential backup in a static way, right? We have this smart way to check and decide, right, what to do. So in my case, right, now my backup strategy before going to, you know, the backup statement, the backup command, it is checking this value to decide what to do. Here is a quick view of the DMB, right? The MDB file space usage, in where we have the modify extend page count and the allocated extend page count. With this, we can get this percentage of change, right? And very easily see if the amount is big enough to decide what to do. Next feature, a smart transaction log backup. In SQL Server 2017, there is a new dynamic management function, DMF, DMDB log stat, right? That give us a new column called log since last log backup in megabyte. What does it mean? We have, or SQL Server exposed to us the amount of megabyte that we have in the transaction log for that particular database, right? Since the last transaction log backup, how we can use that, right? If, let's say, our backup strategy is, you know, a backup every 10, a transaction log backup every 10 minutes, right? We have in this DMF, right, the possibility of checking the amount of megabytes since the previous transaction log backup, right? And again, this one gives us a new possibilities to redefine our backup strategy. For example, in my case, I was doing backups, transaction log backups every 10 minutes. Now, what I'm doing it is I'm doing it every 1 minute, right? But before doing the backup, I'm checking this DMF and this value. And if the amount of megabyte is big enough, or the percentage, because this DMF also give us the total amount of I mean, the size of the transaction log file, right? If the amount of megabyte is big enough, or the percentage is big enough, I do the transaction log backups. Otherwise, I don't do it, right? So this is, for example, something good if you know, we have our production environment that is running on a weekend, right, or at night, in where the peak hours are, you know, off and the activity is not as high as during the business hour, right? So we can do the transaction log backup not that frequent, right? But we are checking, we are querying this DMB, and we check the amount of megabyte. We're going to see a quick demo later. Select into on Filegroup. This is one of the highly voted features that we got for this SQL Server release. What is this? Basically, when we do select into and we send the result set to a new table, right? Till 2016, right? We were just doing this and creating the table, the destination table, on the same file group or the default file group for the database, right? With this feature, we can now specify or redirect the output to a specific file group, right? So let's consider a DW environment, a data warehouse, in where the process requires to pre-cook or prepare intermediate tables to then feed the warehouse, right? Now we can create a new file group with a data file located on a storage, which is SSDs or super fast, right? So we can improve the performance by sending all these tables to that particular file group, right? And as I said, if we define the disk, the storage on a super fast disk, we're gonna see a lot of improvement, right? This is an example of the syntax, right? It's similar than before, but the select into, now we have the option of specifying the destination file group, right? We're gonna see it later. In terms of Tempdb, well, before SQL Server 2016, right, during the setup process of our SQL Server, the Tempdb was created on a particular folder with one file for data, one file for log, with crazy values for autogrow and initial size. So we knew that by fact, as soon as we finish with the setup process, we had to go to the Tempdb and configure it for our environment, right? Move it to the proper drive, create many data files, allocate the initial size and the autogrow value. Right? So we had to do it as a post-setup process. In SQL Server 2016, Microsoft gave us the possibility of doing the setup of Tempdb during the setup process. Right? We can, decide the amount of files, the location, the initial size, and the autogrow value for both data and log files. Right? In 2016, we had a limitation of 256 gigabytes per data file. Right? Now, in 2017, this limitation is gone, so we can create files much bigger than that, right? And also, if the files are quite big, right, we get a warning just to remind us that we have to set up the instance file initialization, right, if it is not enabled. Right? This is something important if we are dealing with big files. Another highly requested, feature was something to help us to monitor the Tempdb. For us, the DBAs, handling Tempdb or managing Tempdb is always challenging, right? For sure, all of us were at some point of our professional careers just sitting on a server, seeing how the Tempdb was growing and growing and growing, and it's always hard to understand what is the workload that is hitting on it. Right? Okay, with this feature, Microsoft is giving us the first entry point to see what's going on. If we have version store enabled, right? Now we can use this DMB, DM transversion store space usage, right? And see per speed, right? The amount of, the size that is using on Tempdb. Again, this is only if we are using version store, right? Is the first point or the first feature that we have for this. There are, we will need more in terms of seeing what's going on in Tempdb, but at least it's the starting point. Is something good. Here is if we are using version store or setting the uh, allow snapshot isolation mode, right? We can see easily the amount of space usage on Tempdb. Again, the starting point is good, and probably we're gonna see more in the future. In terms of user databases, right? Transaction log monitoring and diagnostic. As a best practice, we all know that we have to keep control of the BLF in our database, right? Virtual log files. As a best practices, we know that we have to pay a lot of attention. We shouldn't see a big number of BLF, and we should, have them controlled. Right? Till now, we have the DVCC log info to get all this information regarding to the transaction log BLF. Right? Now there is a new DMB, DMDB log info, right, in where we just can, select it and see the total amount of BLF and the total amount and the current usage, right? So we can more easily, right, monitor the transaction log BLF information, right? We also have a DMF, DMDB log weights, DMDB log stat, in where we pass the database ID, in where we get aggregate transaction log information. So this is a better way to access and keep control our BLF. In terms of backups, one of the things that we were seeing is that when we work on a new project, right? Maybe we work at our workstation or in a small dev server or QA server, right? And we have our project ready to deploy in production. And initially, our database is, let's say, quite small, not big amount of megabyte, right? As soon as we move this database or we deploy this database on a production server, which is high performance with, many cores, a lot of RAM, super duper storage, etc., and we start taking backups of this small, medium database, we were seeing that the amount of time taken to do the backup was too much, right? Not related to the amount of size. So what Microsoft made in SQL Server 2017 is that redesign the backups for this, small, medium databases, right, and make them faster, right? So now we're gonna see improvement for backup times in small to medium sizes databases. Here we have a quick chart in where the blue line is previous versions of SQL Server 2017, while the orange line is 2017, right? And we see the amount of, the size, the database size, and we see that for very, very small databases, 8 megabyte, 256 megabyte, 1 gigabyte, the amount of are, more similar than before. Right? There are a lot of improvements in terms of speed. So this is something also to consider and notice, right? How the backups works right now. Processor information, right? We have the MOS sysinfo. Then, till now we were able to get a lot of information regarding to our platform, right? But when we had to go and get information regarding to sockets, cores, core per socket, it was kind of difficult, right? Most of the time we had to go to our infrastructure administrator and ask for this information, because they have to either go to the vendor or go to the Windows server and check in the setup or in the system information, right? This information regarding to the CPU. Right now, in this info, we have exposed 3 new columns: socket count, core count, and core per socket, right? So we have all this information here in one DMB, right? We don't need to go up to Windows or the OS to check for the processor information. We have everything at the just squaring this DMB. Also, there is a new DMB called DMOS host info, in where we can easily see information regarding to the platform, right? If it is Windows, if it is Linux, the version, the service pack level, the language, etc. Right? Resumable Online index rebuild. To me, this feature is the best feature in SQL Server 2017. Right? Of course, having Python and also having SQL Server running in multiple platforms are the starts of the SQL Server 2017. But for us, the DBAs, Resumable Online Index Rebuild, is something really, really, really huge. Right? When we had to deal or do maintenance in index, we all know that is something really complicated, because we have to schedule several hours, right? We have to, some operations may be online. If we want to do it on a better way, maybe we have to do it offline, right? And as I said, we have to schedule many, many, many hours, right? Especially on big databases with big tables, right? It's always challenging. Databases that are involved in availability groups, right? In full recovery model, right? When we have to do index rebuild, it's really complicated. I remember in early versions of SQL Server that was really a pain, right? Now, with this feature, Resumable Online Index Rebuild, we can start doing an index rebuild, and we can pause it, right? Pause it. We can start rebuilding an index, and when we decide, let's say our maintenance windows is finishing, or for any reason, we can pause the index rebuild operation and resume it at any time, right? Again, this is huge, right? We're gonna see it in action later. The statement is simple: alter index rebuild as usual, but we have the option right now, resumable equal on, right? And there is a system view called index resumable operation, in where we can see each reindex operation. We can see the percentage of completion, and we can see the status, if it is running, if it is paused, or whatever. Right? It's really, really, really important, really huge. The other feature that we have is automatic plan correction. With SQL Server 2016, we had the introduction of Query Store. Query Store, as a quick recap, is like a black box of the airplanes, right? In where they record all the activities for a particular user database, right? In terms of execution and in terms of statistics, right? So if we, the DBA, we have to keep monitoring the query store dashboard to see if one particular workload was behaving bad because of a plan change, and we can manually force to use a different query plan, right? Let's say that we have this critical report that is running normally in a couple of minutes, and one day we arrive to the office and we see that this report is taking hours and it's not finishing. Before Query Store, we had to uh, do heavy troubleshooting, right? See why the query plan was changed, as something quite painful, right? Now with Query Store, we just need to go to the dashboard, or even with T-SQL, identify the report, right? And manually force to use uh, a better execution plan, right? But let's say if we have the problem in the middle of the night and we arrived at the office at 8 a.m. in the morning, all the night the thing was running badly, right? With automatic plan correction is at the top of Query Store, right? We can enable automatic plan correction per database, right? And if it detects that any workload start behaving differently or worse than before, automatically set the last known better execution plan, right? We're gonna see in action is really huge, because right away we can have a better plan. So in Query Store, we have the T-SQL statement, SP force plan, identifying the query ID and the plan ID. Right? With automatic plan correction, we only have to do alter database, set automatic tuning, force last good plan equal on. Right? And all this investment that Microsoft is doing in terms of the query optimizer is, giving it more, intelligence to get better execution plans, right? So we're gonna keep seeing a lot of improvement in this area. But this is really, really a good one, and to pay attention actually. Also, as I said at the beginning, Microsoft is now listen to us, listen to the community, the developers, and everyone. Right? We have a bunch of new string functions. All of them are doing things that you can do with previous versions of SQL Server, right? But right now we do it with one function, right? String is strings, right? How many of you have to, trim a string and do L trim and R trim, right? Well, now we have trim. With one function, we can trim our string, right? So same for translate, concat WS, and string aggregation. These functions are, something that is easily we can do T-SQL with one function and get our result. String concatenation, string aggregation, string substitution, right? Before we had to do crazy things to accomplish the same. Okay, let's do demo time. All right. A smart differential backup. So we have our database Adventures World 2014, and we're going to check the amount of pages changed since the last full backup, 61%. So we're going to do another full backup, right? And we will see, we're going to query this DMB again. And now is 0%, right? We can generate fake workload here. Let's create a table and, inserting values. And again, we're going to query this DMB. We are creating a table and inserting 1,500 times one, value just to generate workload. We check this again, and this value is now growing slowly. End result is that, here we can get this value into a variable, right? And if this value is below 70%, right, we keep doing differential backups. Otherwise, we do a full backup. That's the idea. Have the possibility of deciding what to do. More intelligence to our maintenance process. For transaction log backups, we make sure that the database is in full recovery model. We're going to check the transaction log usage in percentage. Right now is 27%, right? And let's query our DMF. And we see here that we have this amount of megabyte since the last transaction log backup, which was taken a few days ago, right? And we can do the math and get the percentage. So now we will do a transaction log backup quickly. And again, check this DMF and see what we get. Let's see, now we have less than a megabyte, 0%, and it was updated the last log backup time. Again, we have the flexibility to query this and see what we do with our transaction logs backups. Let's see DEM OS sysinfo, right? Here we have the DMB, right? And we have the socket and core information right now. One socket, 8 CPUs, and 4 cores, right? So something that we have now all together in one DMB. DM OS host info, right? This is a Windows machine, Windows 10 machine, right? With no service pack, nothing, right? But we have it right here without going out from T-SQL. Okay, let's close some of this. And let's go to Resumable Online index rebuild. Before starting demo, I just run this query, which takes a couple of long minutes, which basically tell us each index on each table, the fragmentation percentage, the total amount of pages, and the row count, right? So we have, for example, here at table 1, index 1.3, it is fragmented by more than 98%. Is 23.5 median rows. Right? So, okay, let's do our, let me grab something else for later. Okay, let's do the index rebuild. Let's do it. We got an error. Let's see why. The resumable option cannot be set to on when online option is set to off. As the feature name said, this is resumable online index rebuild. The rebuild operation have to be online. Right? We can't use this for offline operation. So the way to do it is alter index rebuild on table, rebuild with resumable on, online on. Right? We have an additional option called max duration. What is this? We can configure the rebuild operation to run only for a minute, right? So we set it for a minute, it runs for a minute, and when it finishes, it pauses automatically, right? So let's do the index rebuild. This is a different index, 1.3. Okay, now it's running. Let's check this. We have on our DMB, right, that the operation is the second row, right? Is 2.5%. The statement that is running, right? Alter index, and here is the status: running, right? And when did it start? So we can continue querying this, and we check that it's still running, right? And it's 22% and growing. We have another operation that was paused from before, right? Okay, what we can do here? We can just cancel this or go to another query window and do pause, right? It's gonna take a few seconds and it's gonna stop the index rebuild operation. It's gonna pause it actually, right? We can, as soon as this finish, it's gonna take a few more seconds, right? We will see the operation here as pause, right? It's still running. And when we decide, let's say we have in the row one that this index is paused, we can go and resume it at any time. Let's continue. Select into on file group, right? Let me do my thing first. Let me show you something first, because I have to do something quick. So this is Tempdb monitoring. We're gonna create a new database, MyDB. We're gonna set it to compatibility level 140 and set up allow snapshot isolation on. So we have version store enabled. We will create a table and we're gonna insert two values, right? Let's do a quick select here. We have two values, Peter and Bob. So what we will do here is we're gonna update one of the ID, right? Let's say ID 2. Let's change the ID from 1 to 100 for the first row. Let's do this update. Right? So we have like a version store here, right? Because we have the snapshot isolation enabled. So we check here Let's do it one more time. Let's do it one more time. Let's do one in one shot. Okay, what we should see here is that for this speed, in this case 66, right, we should see that we have additional, the amount of kilobyte in Tempdb is, it's not working, not sure what is wrong. I have to double check here. So anyway, let's go back to the select into Filegroup. I have restored the Adventures Works DW database, right? I will add a new file group called FG2. I will add a data file to that file group. Again, we will check the database, and now we see that we have, right, the file group that we just added, right? And we will do a select into, specifying the file group destination. Okay, I'm gonna see one more thing. I'm gonna see a quick demo about automatic tuning. Here we have performance monitor, and we are monitoring batch request per second, right? What I will do here is I will generate workload. So now we have a certain amount of batch requests per second, right? Because we are, just doing a lot of transactions. What I will do here is I will generate a plan regression, right? So I'm generating a regression, and we see that the batch request per second is now slower than before, right? With query store enabled, what we can do is just go here and check what we have, right? Now there is a DMB called DMDB tuning recommendation saying, hey, we have this activity, right? That the CPU changed from one value to another, and it's giving us the script to manually force the query plan. So we're gonna run it. And what we notice here is that the batch request per second is now back to normal, right? But as I said, we had all this period of time in where we didn't realize that we were having a plan regression, right? So the performance was not good. Okay, so let's stop the activity. Now batch requests per second drop to 0. Let's clean this, and let's enable automatic tune, right? The way to do it is set automatic tuning force last good plan equal on. Okay, it's done. So now let's generate again activity. Again, we check our batch request per second. And once again, let's introduce the regression, right? So notice that nothing happened, right? Maybe it drops, but it came back immediately, right? So we didn't have to wait much for this, right? So automatically it went back to a better plan. Back to the slides. Here I have some links to other features like graph processing, show plan enhancement, right? There's a lot of improvement in terms of the show plan, and more information regarding to adaptive query processing. Also, some notes, right? Now in SQL Server 2017, Microsoft have this modern release model, right? Which basically we won't see service pack anymore. We are going to see cumulative updates every month, right? In where these updates will have fixes and will have improvements, right? So no more service pack, and every month we will have a CU, right? A cumulative update. SQL Operation Studio in preview right now. This is a management tool like Management Studio, right? But it's multiple platform. It runs in Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, right? So from our Mac machine, we can manage or control or administer a SQL Server. Okay, before going to the question, I know that Manu want to do some announcements, so but I'm done with the presentation. So thank you all. Manu?
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Javier. So thanks for the wonderful presentation. We'll get back to the question and answers in a bit. I just want to cover a couple of slides before we get into the question and answers. So I just want to talk about the full day trainings that are happening just before Data Platform Summit 2018. These are happening on 7th and 8th of August in 2018. Many of you would have already attended previous webinars and have seen these slides, but I'll just quickly walk through. So we have the first one on Troubleshoot and Optimize SQL Server by Dimitri from US. He is an MCM of SQL Server. We have the second webinar by Sunil Agarwal on how to migrate on-premises databases to Azure SQL DB and the managed instance. Sunil has been a regular speaker for at our past events, so you'll be able to talk to him, and all these pre-con speakers will be delivering regular breakout sessions during the 3-day conference after the pre-cons. So we have Reza Rad from New Zealand. He's a data and BI expert from New Zealand. So he'll be covering Power BI from rookie to rockstar. Leila Atati, again, MVP from New Zealand and a data scientist. Dr. Leila Atati will be covering data science with Microsoft tools. Andy Leonard, a worldwide SSIS expert from US. He'll be covering data integration with SSIS and ADF. Madan Gajendran and his team from Microsoft will be talking about Azure Cosmos DB. So if you are venturing into Azure and want to learn about Cosmos DB, this is one of the very good full day training session that's available. Leila Atati again is doing a pre-con on the second day, how to build business intelligence applications using the Microsoft AI platform. Steph Lockey, many of you who would have learned about R or have explored R would know Steph Lockey. She's a data science expert and MVP from UK, and she'll be doing a practical R for everyone. So this is a must attend if you're serious about learning data science with R. Sanjay Mishra and Azure CAT team will be there to doing the full day training on scalable data architecture in Azure. So if you have migrations that are going into Azure, this is a very good session to attend. This is a very good full day training to attend. We have Denny Sherry and Joey joining us back again, 4th time in a row. So Denny Sherry will be delivering a pre-con on HADR, and Joey DeAntony will be delivering a pre-con on SQL Server for DBAs on Linux. We also have Peter Myers, a very popular speaker from last year. He'll be doing a 0 to analysis services full day pre-con and also doing regular sessions during the regular breakout sessions during the conference. So please plan ahead. This is a wonderful event. This is going to be a wonderful event, and we'll be announcing few more speakers going forward. So we have a wonderful lineup of speakers coming up, and also we have all the pre-con speakers who will be delivering regular breakout sessions during the 3-day conference as well. So plan well and try to attend this conference. And I will hand over. Uh, and also the site for the conference is dps10.com. So it's dps1010.com. You can also mail us at contact@dps10.com. So please do send us mails if you have any questions and if you want us to get back to you. We can send you more details. We have some questions, and I'll hand over to um, Javier for answering the questions. Javier, over to you.